We've got Shay Manny, who's our Senior Director of Product Management, running the panel. Shay has overseen the development of every single revenue management tool within Guesty. So rate plans, revenue strategy, build-outs for Guesty PriceOptimizer, integrations with Pricelabs, Wheelhouse. He's had his hands in everything. So he actually kind of handpicked this panel based on the people he saw as the who's who in the industry of pricing strategies and who wanted to work with us on this panel. So we're really happy to have with us Daniel Zammata, the Senior Solutions Consultant for Pricelabs. We also have AJ Brooks, an owner and CEO of a property management company based out of Nashville called Axel House. And then rounding it out, we have Sean Rakidzich, who is actually a bit of an influencer himself. He's known as the $1 Million Renter, and he's kind of the founder and owner of his own business. So everyone kind of coming at it from a little bit of a different angle, so we'll get a really well-rounded discussion. All right, now without any further ado, please give it up for our panel.
Sit next to me.
Am I sitting here? Oh, it's on.
We're good? Awesome. Hi, everyone. So excited to be here. My name is Shay, and I'm a Director of Product in Guesty. I'm responsible for revenue and guest management. And today we're going to do something super interesting. But before we dive into this, I've been asked by our team just to let you all know that we have an awesome product booth here, just there. And we didn't see enough attention of people heading out and asking our product team questions. So encouraging you, they're super cool people, and they really love to hear what you think about our product and what you want us to do better. So go there. Cool. So today we're going to dive into one of the hottest topics in our industry in property management, is how to improve and be more advanced with revenue management. You know, with all the rising costs, the change of administration, the economic uncertainty, the pressure was never been greater. We'll explore how revenue management discipline adapts to this. We'll look at how technology and AI are transforming our domain. Does human expertise are still needed, or does the machine can do stuff better than we do? So to talk about this stuff, I have joined here with me 3 panelists to represent different perspectives of these questions. Starting with AJ Brooks, who will represent the property management angle. AJ Brooks from Axel House, with over a decade of experience scaling and transforming properties into revenue engines. And we also have Daniel Zammata from Pricelabs. Daniel is here to cover the technological aspect of these questions. Daniel is a senior solution consultant with over 10 years in property and revenue management, helping operators maximize their revenue. And connecting between the property manager and their technology, we have Sean Rakidzich. Did I get this right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. A short-term rentals educator with the largest YouTube following in this space and hands-on relationship with hosts in over 40 countries. So let's start. And I want to start with the revenue management discipline. So as you guys imagine, we are working with many property managers from different sizes and geographies. And one of the insights, or one of the things that we are still perplexed about, is that many of them, and not necessarily the ones that are new or smaller, are still struggling with the basic discipline of revenue management. And AJ, I want to start with you. Like, what are your recommendations to people who are just getting started and struggling with pricing? What are the basics or the first thing that they should do when they are building up their revenue management discipline?
Absolutely. When you're just getting started, and essentially you're in this room, so you've all already started, you realize really quickly that pricing is the most important thing. And although we want to know what the best prices are, it's really hard to do that by hand, at least now, with the size of the inventory and everything else. So the best thing you can do is educate yourself. There are so many resources, especially on this stage between Guesty, you have your famous YouTuber, your really great resources like Pricelabs and all the other ones. You can talk to people and information is free, and you can talk to other property managers who are where you want to be and ask how they got there. That's how I started, and I got really good advice from some really way smarter people than me in revenue management, and I learned really quickly that I needed to automate. I needed to get a pricing tool, and I needed to have market-specific instructions. And also to start the common sense, audit. Things like Taylor Swift and how she affects my pricing and how she affects everyone's pricing all over the world. Really, really simple things that you already know, but you just don't understand why it's important, and that's part of this process.
Awesome. One more question. You started, you did that, you looked online, you understand from people, you spoke with people, you did your setup. When do you feel comfortable? When do you know that this is the point that your revenue management is optimized to your property? Or is it just ongoing and you always continue?
I don't feel comfortable yet. I think, especially right now, as soon as I started to think I got the hang of it, AI became important. So, we're in a really interesting phase. And I think it's a huge moment in time. And I can't wait to have this conversation. And this, next year, the next guest eval, 2 years from now, I think it's going to be so different than it is today.
Okay, so we are going to talk about AI
Sorry.
in a minute. Yeah, I'm just saying it's out there and it's almost on any conversation.
Yeah.
Awesome. I want to ask you, Daniel, again, looking at people that are just starting or maybe not doing homework as AJ is doing, what are the biggest misconceptions that people are doing? What are the biggest mistakes that you guys identify for people that are joining Pricelabs?
Yeah, I think, I guess one of the biggest misconceptions that we see nowadays with the current operators and property managers is to think that dynamic pricing tools and the discipline is about set and forget, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think we are not at the point where we can just set up a tool and trust the algorithm entirely. I think that I should be probably saying it, but
Will
it's
we
not.
ever get there?
We will be getting there for sure. But I think there's still a lot that needs to be, or some part that needs to be done from the user, and I would say maybe 20% user guided, and then 80% that should be algorithm automation. So that's, I think, one of the biggest misconceptions. And then if I can think of a second one, I would probably say that sometimes we measure ourselves thinking that success is about just getting high levels of occupancy. And really, revenue management has a part of that, but it's not entirely about just occupancy. It's got different dimensions that need to be looked into or altogether. And I think success is more about predictability or predictable profit with, I would say, owner satisfaction, maybe.
And what do you mean by that? What do you mean by owner satisfaction? Is the ability to translate to them the job that you're doing, or is it?
Yes, at the end of the day, each portfolio, I guess, that has a different expectation. And I think that the property manager's expectations comes from what the owner behind him is saying.
Yeah.
And so the moment that the property manager or revenue manager has his owner satisfied and happy about what's happening with his home portfolio, that's part of the success. I'm not saying it's everything, but it's part of that success.
Yeah, it's a recurring theme that we are hearing from as a challenge for PMCs, indeed. Sean, Earlier backstage, we had a conversation, and I think one thing that you said that was really interesting for me is that you said that successful revenue managers are starting like long before they're looking into pricing. Can you add more color and details on that?
Yeah, I think that we're in an interesting meta in this space right now. If you look at how we've gotten here in the short-term rental market, we can look at Airbnb as one of the primary examples. We've had a lot of growth because Airbnb adopted hosts that would do everything for you. Pour you a bottle of wine for $40, pick you up from the airport, right? That bred expectation, and it calibrated a certain audience that would start to travel. But since COVID, I think a lot of us survived COVID, there was this big boom after where passive investors wanted to get into the market because it looked like a really profitable opportunity. Better than long-term rentals, let's get into short-term rentals. So you had these Globo gym properties, these beautiful, huge, but very sterile properties that should have just been on Zillow. No good artwork, no soul, no passion. And these properties wanted to maximize their income against the market with very little investment, very little host-like effort. And just like how Airbnb was able to get so much STR growth from over-delivering, guests are now calibrated almost to the opposite. There's the highest level of distrust I've seen in this market space, right? And guests are smarter than ever. It's probably one of my favorite things about this space right now is the challenge of the fact that guests are so intelligent. And they can see through our photos, they can see the smallest things. And they're less impressed by Globo gym properties, these big mansions that have no artwork on the wall. Maybe 5 years ago they would have gone, wow, this is a huge, beautiful property, right? But now they're like, that doesn't look like the host actually cares. These photos don't look like they have a soul. They just want my money. And so this concept of perception of effort is something that we've distilled down, which is how to signal to a guest that this property is worth your time, that you can trust the host, that the host cares. All of these variables that come into play where you are now one of 4 tabs open against 3 other competitors in your market, right? You're in Utah and there's your cabin and 3 other ones and one's an A-frame and you can't beat them because that one's just too super pretty. And now you have to reckon with the fact, right? Your rate then becomes the final line of defense to get a booking, but everything you did to get to that point where you're one of 4 tabs open, your hero photo, the way you describe your listing, the way you signal trust, the way that you fill your photos with the little knickknacks that show that you have some soul and personality, all of those things then cascade down to that final moment where somebody will make a decision. And price is a factor, but if you don't get opened, you can't get a booking. Your price doesn't matter if no one clicks on your listing. And I do think one other thing I want to say is when you think of your listing over thousands of impressions, there is no rate that is make or break because guests have price tolerance, right? They might pay 80, they might pay 120. A guest might pay 350 to 500. And over thousands of impressions, you get all this overlay. So yeah, you raise your rates, you might get less conversion, but you're not going to go and flatline it 0% conversion because you raised your rate $10, right? And so we have to really just understand that everything that leads us to that pricing decision can either increase buying temperature and trust, or we're just competing in price. And I think it's the last line.
So in a way, the role of the revenue manager is part of it is also to understand that the decision maker, the guest that is looking at the different option is not looking at the price only. In a way, they're accumulating all the information and then saying, okay, pricing is part of it and it's a very important part, but okay, does the description looks good? Do we have all the amenities? Is this a place that I would like to stay in? And so the content is part of what revenue manager should look at.
Yeah.
It's a good way to...
Yeah, you should look at it like you're almost like a surgeon operating on a body on the table, right? And you have to assess the situation. If you're a revenue manager and you anticipate that you have extreme control of the market because there's just too much demand, not enough supply, you can get more greedy. If you can identify that all of your competitors are going to get booked first because they're underpriced and all your real competitors are accidentally going to get booked with too much lead time, and you're the only real listing left within, say, 45 days of lead time, you can get really greedy. But if you sense that there's too much competition or that the market has deflated or you have a run of like less than optimal reviews that break your trust, all of these variables then lean into the revenue manager and he has to internalize that and go, you know what? I don't think we can hold the rate we want for external factor X, Y, or Z, or we can get greedy because we see something that the market doesn't see.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah.
Cool, I want to ask you, Daniel, I think one of the, and also refer to something that you said earlier, that we cannot leave managing prices just to chance, right? And knowledge, information here is super important in automation. And still, when we are looking at the numbers, what we see in Guesty, that the dynamic pricing tools across the board are still adopted by up to 60%. It depends on geo, segment, and everything. And for me, this number still looks, considering the maturity of the industry, this number still looks very, very low. And I want to ask you, Daniel, from your perspective, living this domain, what are the main barriers for entry that you guys identify? Is it trust? Is it a lack of understanding how important pricing are?
I mean, it really depends on the size of the property, of the portfolio for the property manager, but I think one of the biggest blockers that I've seen working with like 100 plus portfolios is maybe owners' skepticism.
Skepticism.
Yeah. It's hard to lose control of the final rate that, just like Sean just said, it's like the final line of defense, and it's basically the outliner on whether you're getting a booking or not. So that's one, and then I think that also, nowadays we're growing on a tech stack that it's one thing, and you got to learn about another thing, and then there's another thing, and so that kind of builds up, and it can really get to being a lot, right? It can, it increases costs, of course, for the Latin American market, working with so many different property managers here in Mexico, Colombia, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic. I've seen that property managers are very price sensitive. And so that's, I think, one of the biggest also blockers that I've seen here or around the region.
Sean, from speaking with many of your people that ask for your consultants, do you feel the same, that it's mostly skepticism or trust? They believe that they know better than a machine learning algorithm?
Actually, from my side, where I see people go from 0 to 1 listing, they're so eager to sign up for every piece of tech they can get their hands on, and they have no clue what it's going to do, right? So people get on YouTube, learn it like, hey, you can do Airbnb, and every other guru on the planet is like, oh, you should just use Pricelabs. That's all you should do. Set it and forget it. That's what they teach, right?
Yeah.
So people have, on my side, there's this overconfidence that a pricing software will solve all of their problems.
Right.
So the bigger people are more discerning, because I'm a DIY guy that doesn't want to pay for anything. If I can do it myself, well, I'm going to give you my bottom line. But the mass community of single hosts, I think there's a ton of individual hosts that are on softwares because they think of it like the Wizard of Oz.
Got it. And do you find that by working with them and explaining the value, they change their perspective, they change their mind about working with these tools?
Yeah, they change. They don't kick the software, though. They keep it, but they learn that the relationship isn't such a pure provider manna from heaven, kind of we just give you all the bookings you want. They start to learn that softwares situationally do really well in some spots, and market to market. You might have a software that's great in peak season, but doesn't do so well in your slow season, or it doesn't do well with short lead time. And they learn the relationship is imperfect, and they try to educate themselves to fill those gaps.
Awesome, thank you.
I want to add a little bit on that,
of course.
if I can. That I think that it's also very important, and I think that's one of the very good things, that, at least from my perspective and what I've heard from different property managers, that Pricelabs is doing, and I think that we're doing pretty well, is that I think that barriers are going to still going down the moment that the product that these property managers are using speaks more human, right? And that it's easier for them, not only from the user interface point of view, but also from the data that's presented and the interaction with the customer support team and all, and that's something that I believe that's going to lower those blockers or those barriers for the property managers.
So as technology provider, we have a lot we can do to make it more accessible.
I like to say, like, it has to speak human.
Yeah.
Or try.
Speaking human, I want to, being conscious of time, I want to move to a very interesting subject. I do want to talk about AI. But before we do, I do want to ask you guys, look at the poll. We have a poll to understand what you guys think about AI. So if you go to the session and down on the bottom you have a poll. So please log in, read the questions, and let us know what you think. So I want to start talking about AI, and I think that AI is an amazing technology, and we're constantly being exposed to what these things can do, from these amazing videos and from conversation and podcasts and whatever it can do. And the question is asked is, how is this going to be adopted into our industry, and specifically in this case into our revenue management domain. So AJ, I want to start with you as a PMC. What are your experience? How are you seeing the development? Do you think that you want to adopt more and more of this, or you want to stay and see how other people will do it?
I am very excited, and I don't mind testing, obviously not with every house in my portfolio, but
Yeah.
certainly with things that at least, ones that I personally own. I get very excited. And I think that the topic is so nuanced in a way. I can only tell you my opinion, and it's obviously subjective off of my experience and people I trust. But I think that it's going to be more of always a collaboration. I don't ever feel, and I hope I'm wrong because wouldn't that be great, but I don't ever feel that it will be 100% autopilot. That plug and play thing that people want now, obviously that's not a reality. The AI has a partner, and it's always human, HI, human intelligence.
Yeah.
You can't have one without the other in revenue management. I think eventually we could, and that would be amazing. And I'm okay right now with testing it out. I think that there's a lot to be gained with leaning in and being early. I think it's huge when you're a person like me who's pitching to homeowners and asking for them to trust. People who, a lot of them are not willing to educate themselves on AI in general. And the minute I bring it in an approachable way, I know that they have trust because their barrier for entry is a little high for some people.
Because of trust, right?
Trust, yeah.
And you feel that part of your job as a PMC is
Yes.
to meet, in a way, to be the mediator between the technology and them, and to kind of build the confidence and tell them that it works. And
Yes, and to protect them from big mistakes and to not risk too much. But with this industry, obviously, you can make mistakes, but you can adjust them quickly, and you can undo mistakes. You don't want to have to do that, but it's not life or death.
Yeah.
This is vacations.
it's not
supposed to be
accounting.
fun.
It's
Yeah.
not accounting.
It's not accounting. Yes.
Amazing. Daniel, I want to ask you, if we look at dynamic pricing, so machine learning is here for ages, right? And this, in a way, technology matured to where it is today, and people trust it. We said over 60% of the industry are using it. And now there is the new kid on the block, which is AI or Gen AI. How do you guys see it integrated into your tech stack, into your solutions?
Heavily.
Heavily.
Yeah. And I think that every day we're pushing the system to have more of that AI and incorporate all these different algorithms and practices that go around AI. Specifically speaking about price ups, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that when we, at least speaking about myself, when I was taught the discipline of revenue management, at the end of the day, and touching a little bit on what AJ mentioned, where I was taught about discipline being something that you can look at from two perspectives, the qualitative perspective and the quantitative perspective, right?
Okay.
So the data side of things, that's something that I feel like we don't have entirely covered, but we're getting there. Systems are getting smarter, and AI is very good at math, very good at reading data, except for those little mistakes that you have to, ChatGPT, make sure math's mathing,
Yeah.
right? That happens more often than. But then there's the human side of things that AI still hasn't been able to do. I probably differ a little bit from what you just said. I actually feel like there's going to be a point where we're not going to have to do anything at all. I mean, look at all these apps that do the core and staging for spaces, like interior design apps, and they're all AI based, and they know exactly what you're expecting, and they can set a property up very well. And so I think, but right now AI is not capable of really reading your story. What's your brand meaning, right? And that's something that's going to have to be developed, and I think it's going to take a little bit longer. but that eventually, I think that we're going to get there.
Well, that's super interesting because earlier you said, listen, today one of the biggest misconceptions is set and forget. But eventually, with Gen AI,
100%.
you will get to the point that we are recommending to use set and forget because it just do the work better than we do.
I think so, yeah.
Wow, that's a very interesting insight. Thank you. Sean, from your perspective, what are people saying? What are you recommending maturity-wise, future?
I'm so contrarian to this. I disagree with all of you. I just disagree with you guys. I would not go so far to say that I hate AI, but I've got a big distrust for it.
Okay.
And I use AI. I actually generated a mock-up of a space that I call my Red Room, and it designed the space using AI. Gave it the input. He was like, here's where the piano is going to go. What colors should we use? We like red. Okay, so now let's do mock-ups. And I use it. But one thing I've learned as a creator, the more I know about a topic, the more I tend to disagree with AI. Right? Because it lacks the nuance, right? It just lacks so much depth of thought. It doesn't disagree with itself enough. It doesn't think devil's advocate enough to think maybe I'm wrong. It's very sycophantic, someone from Hopper said. It's very affirming. And it'll give an unintelligent person 30% of a solution, but give them the confidence that if they had 100% of the solution. So the one thing I love about AI is that everybody's going to use it, and I'm going to whoop their ass. Because they'll get halfway done with something, and I'll take it the rest of the way because they stopped with AI. And they thought they had a full solution because they know nothing about the thing. So if somebody used AI to run their pricing strategy, but they know nothing about price, they don't know why something's working. So yeah, let's team up AI with a pricing software, and let's say it does good except for a black swan event. And now the kid who's using it has no clue how price works, and he ends up in a situation where he's now running negative on his rent roll, and he can't solve his problem because that black swan event, he's not trained for it. He doesn't have any in-the-trenches experience.
So you're saying at this point, human oversight is a must. Like you really need to understand the recommendation. You really need to understand where the pricing are coming from, the limitations are coming from. But trying to look ahead, look at where the technology developed in the last year. Do you believe that it will get to the point that it will, I don't know, at least replace the basic level of managing prices?
I think creativity requires constraints, and so does critical thinking. So you could say that there's artistry in the input. Anybody who's really good at any AI will tell you that the way that they build prompts is really what defines their success, right? You don't tell ChatGPT, make me a pony and get the pony you want. It's all about the prompts.
Yeah.
I think it's getting better and better at trying to understand what the user is going for based on the relationship it's building with the user. But then even that I think is a little bit incomplete. I don't see within the next 3 years that we can get top performance without somebody being a master of communicating with the AI, which means they need to know the limitations, the biases of the AI, really what its output tendencies are. And if I was going to use AI to do pricing strategy related stuff, I'd maybe give it the donkey's load of research and chewing on data.
Yeah.
But I would need to really know that I would do it this way, and this is the output I'm looking for. I'm looking for truth in the data, and I'd let it do something that would take me 40 hours, but I would still need to really have enough comprehension of what it's doing. Otherwise, I don't think I can trust it, because I even have a problem with AirDNA with their lack of hygienic data and stuff.
Yeah.
And I just don't know what's going on in that black box enough for me to really die on my pricing strategy with AI. So I don't think in the next 3 years I'm going to use AI for anything truly significant, aside from maybe anticipating my competition is going to overextend on it, and I'm going to plan to beat them wherever they make a mistake. So my thoughts.
Awesome, thank you. I'm trying to look at the poll results, and I think what I see for now that most of people, I fully believe in AI. That's interesting.
Oh, I got you guys. You guys are
And
so
some
good.
people, yeah. And on the other hand, others, I do not believe AI has real value in revenue management. So that's interesting, the one in the middle. So I don't know if, Daniel, if there are updated poll results, because I see here limited numbers. So if there are, please send them through. Okay, so I think these are two different perspectives, super interesting. AJ, at this point, what are the limitations that you still applying on machine learning and AI in terms of setting up your properties? Where do you, control the knobs in a way?
Yeah, I ultimately have a variety of different properties that I deal with, and I'm in a few different states.
Okay.
So there is no one solution. Also, with permitting restrictions, my ability, the viability of only short-term rental, I actually have been trying to incorporate ways to build midterm rental strategies into mine, as
Okay.
well as other seasonality things. So those are a little more nuanced and something new for me, but in general, the knobs are, we, as in revenue management, we entirely want to make sure that the pricing is, as it is related to AI, is
Yeah.
predicting exactly when to change the price
Okay.
and by how much. And that's as simple as I can put it. The why is on me and us.
Got it.
The type of property, the reason. I mean, I brought up Taylor Swift, World Cup. There's so many different reasons. The why is important. The kind of listing and what we need to be adjusting and setting up those, modifications for.
So in a way, ideally, the tool or this agent will have a conversation with you about what you want to optimize to, what are the different aspects of your business and your specific properties that
Yeah.
it should work on, right?
Absolutely. And in my dream world, I would have a conversation and use normal language with an AI LLM that can tell me the whys and give me data behind it and maybe even tell me what the competitors are doing or what Sean would do. And I'd be like, this is what Sean thinks.
It's great.
And have him pick apart my strategy, your personality in my LLM. That would be so helpful.
Cool. So this is such an interesting, and I believe we could have spoken here for hours, but we're out of time. Guys, I really want to thank you for your insights and the different perspectives. The one about how you see future AI is something that we really want to continue the discussion. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for listening. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.